I remember that day perfectly. Nothing felt off. The afternoon was calm, no rain, no heat. The sky looked dull but normal. I was sitting on the porch, mindlessly scrolling my phone, waiting for Maghrib. Then Ken showed up, walking from the alley with his small sling bag. No greetings, no small talk. He just said, "So, we going?" 2 words, and I instantly knew what he meant. We'd planned this a week ago. The old school at the edge of the neighborhood, abandoned since who knows when. Everyone who passed it always sped up their steps. They said it caught fire once. They also said someone got possessed inside. Every story tied to that place was always messed up, and that made us even more curious. My house, Ken's, and Mika's weren't far apart. We'd known each other since we were kids, and we had this weird shared instinct, breaking into places people avoided. Abandoned warehouses, collapsed factories, even dried out wells. Not ghost hunting, more like testing limits. We'd all trained MMA for years, so we weren't too worried about safety. Me and Ken were both about 6 feet tall. Mika was younger, but built like a rock. Not long after Ken showed up, Mika followed. He brought a small Bible, the one he usually kept in his bedroom drawer. He didn't say much, just held it up and said, "Just in case." The 2 of us got it right away. Among the 3 of us, Mika was always the one who believed in that kind of stuff. And we never made fun of him for it, because honestly, we weren't entirely sure that this world was all about logic either. Our bags didn't carry much. Just water bottles, a flashlight, a small knife, and that Bible. That's it. We didn't bring any cameras. Had no intention of making content. This was purely about scratching an itch of curiosity. We walked through a narrow alley, then onto a dirt path that hadn't been used in a while. Overgrown weeds on both sides, loose cables hanging from poles. The sky got weirder, not dark, but unnaturally dim. The color wasn't purple, not orange either, more like the color of burnt paper skin. When we got to the school gate, we went quiet, not a word came out. The building stood like a sleeping giant, tall, its paint all peeled off. Part of the roof had caved in. The school sign was only half there. Some letters had fallen off. Many windows were shattered, some patched with old cardboard. The front yard was overgrown with tall weeds, and even from there, you could smell the mix of dampness and rusted metal. Mika opened his Bible and started praying quietly. His tone was low, like someone trying to keep from shaking. Ken and I lowered our heads, silent. No one laughed. No one joked. Once he finished, Ken pulled the rusted iron gate. It screeched long and loud, cutting through the stillness of that evening. And the moment I stepped into the schoolyard, I froze. We entered the main building through a side door that was already half open. Its hinges screeched, and we heard something fall from inside. I thought it was a rat or something. We all stopped for a second and looked at each other. No one said a word, but I'm sure we were all thinking the same thing. This was just the surface. And we didn't know yet that what was waiting inside wasn't just an empty building. Every step we took deeper inside, the smell got worse. At first it was like dust and sealed off air, but over time, it changed, sharper, more rotten, like dried blood or spoiled meat soaked in water. My nose stung. Mika coughed softly, but he held it back. This school didn't feel like a regular abandoned building. It felt more like a grave that was never buried. The air was heavy, and the deeper we went, the colder it got. The walls were covered in damp mold, the floor wet like it had leaked from the ceiling, and every corner of the hallway felt like something was hiding. Every classroom door was half open, none fully shut, none wide open. Just odd, like they were left that way on purpose, to grab your attention, but also to keep something from getting out. And every time we passed one, I felt a strange draft coming from inside, like breathing. We finally turned on our flashlights. The light from outside wasn't enough anymore. Once the beam lit the way ahead, everything became clearer, but also more terrifying. Dirty walls, peeling paint, strange writing on chalkboards that hadn't been fully erased, and the sound of our own footsteps on the wet floor. It scraped like something being dragged. I looked up, water stains on the ceiling, and a shallow puddle beneath it. Papers were scattered on the floor. Some looked like torn-out pages from old school books, dirty and half-soaked. In the middle of it all, there was a flipped-over chair with a small backpack underneath. I didn't get the chance to check it, because right as we passed a certain part of the hallway, we came to a full stop. There was a bloody handprint on the left wall. Not just any mark. The red was still bright, like fresh blood. Even a few drops had just fallen to the floor. 3 fingers clear, 2 looked smudged or wiped. The shape was distinct, and it wasn't something old. It was recent. We all froze. I stayed still. Ken looked at me. Mika pulled out his Bible, opened it slowly, but he didn't read anything. None of us dared to speak. Only our breathing was audible. My mind went into overdrive. Who put that there? Just now? Who came in here before us? Or is someone still here? But no one said, "Let's go back." Not a single one of us. Maybe our curiosity was too strong, or maybe our egos were too big. So we kept going. We headed toward the stairs. Narrow, so narrow only one person could fit. The railing was rusted. The steps were slippery, covered with moss and shards of glass. When we reached the second floor, it was even more damaged. Broken windows, cold night wind blowing in, dragging dry leaves across the floor. Colder, emptier, like a place abandoned in a hurry. We hadn't gone far, just a few steps from the stairs. And then we heard a sound. Footsteps. Fast, heavy. The rhythm was off, like someone running but dragging their feet. And it came from the end of the hallway, deep in the dark. We stopped. We aimed our flashlights ahead, but saw nothing. Only the sound. Getting closer. Mika whispered, "We need to get out." I replied quickly, "Yeah." Down? Ken had just opened his mouth, maybe to add something, but suddenly... Brack! The main door downstairs slammed shut. Loud. The floor under us shook. We all reacted instantly. Small knives came out of our bags, not real weapons, but enough for self-defense if needed. The flashlight stayed on, but my hand was shaking. We all knew something was down there, and it didn't want us to leave. I gave a subtle signal. We turned around, heading down the stairs slowly, feet pressed to the wall to avoid slipping. Even the sound of our own steps made our hearts pound. Each breath felt like it could be our last. Like if we moved the wrong way, something would jump out of the dark. Once we got downstairs, we went straight to the main door. Mika ran ahead, pushed it with all his strength, but it didn't move. Locked, or held from the outside. It didn't make sense. Old locks like that are usually easy to force open. But this one was solid, like something was holding it shut from the other side. Ken whispered, "Side door, close by. Come on." I nodded. We ran into the side hallway, near the teacher's office or maybe the old cafeteria. And as we turned the corner, I glanced down the other hallway, the left one, the only hallway we hadn't gone through yet. And that's when I saw him. At the end of the left hallway, standing still, insanely tall, a height that didn't make sense. Taller than all of us, maybe 6'8", or even 7 feet. His body was big, muscular, but the shape looked wrong. The proportions were off, like something had forced its way into a human body. His jacket was torn up, long rips everywhere, like it had been clawed or violently pulled. The color had faded, worn out, like he'd been living in that place for years. Dark jeans, filthy, stained brown and wet from the knees down, like he'd been sitting or dragging himself across the dirty floor. And the part that instantly knocked the air out of my lungs, his right hand. He was holding a sledgehammer. Long, heavy. The metal head made a faint scraping sound on the floor as he shifted it slightly. But he didn't walk, didn't raise the weapon. He just looked at us. His stare wasn't angry, but it wasn't neutral either. It was the kind of stare, like someone who had already decided your fate from afar. No emotion, but full of finality. And that decision was clear. We weren't supposed to make it out alive. I stood frozen, couldn't move at all. My brain was already yelling, "Run!" But my legs didn't listen. My hands were shaking, gripping the flashlight, and the beam from it made his silhouette even clearer. Every second, he became more real. I slowly tapped Ken's arm. He turned, followed my gaze. And when he saw that figure, his knife dropped from his hand. Not because he was shocked, more like his body just gave up. Mika turned too, and his reaction was worse. He ran to the door, pushed with both hands, even kicked it. Totally panicked, no voice came out, just heavy breathing and trembling. But me, I kept staring at him. I didn't know why, but deep inside, I had the strangest feeling, like I had seen him before. Not his face, but his presence, his atmosphere, like a nightmare I once forgot. Now showing up for real, his eyes still locked onto us. Didn't move, didn't blink, but it felt like he knew everything about us. Finally, Ken yanked my backpack from behind, hard, almost tore the strap. That snapped me out of it. And right then, we ran. No signal, no sound. We just ran. The hallway shook with the sound of our footsteps, the sound of our shoes hitting the floor, the old door finally creaking open, heavy breathing, and maybe even our own screams. I don't remember who screamed first, or what we screamed. Everything had blended together. We only stopped when we reached the main road. There was a single street lamp still on. That was our first safe point. I leaned against the pole. Mika sat on the ground, back against the wall, gripping his Bible tightly. Ken crouched down, his hands covering his face. I looked at my watch, 10:48 p.m. No one spoke. No one looked at each other. Everyone was busy resetting their own breathing. My legs were shaking. My palms were ice cold. After that, we walked slowly. Not rushing, not brave. We walked each other home like usual. I walked Ken and Mika to their houses first. No one said thank you. No one said that was scary. Everything felt frozen. Like, it wasn't over. I crossed the street alone. 2 minutes to my house. When I got there, I rushed to unlock the door, locked it again, twice, and just sat on the floor. Bright lights on, phone glowing, but my head was blank. I didn't sleep that night. My eyes stayed open till morning. And all through the night, Only one thing kept replaying in my mind. Who was he? Who was that person? Why was there a bloody handprint that was still fresh? Why did the school hallways feel like they were arranged to pull us in? And the scariest part, what if we had chosen the left hallway from the start? What would have happened if we hadn't realized in time? I never talked about it again with Ken or Mika. Even when we met up, we pretended it never happened, like it was just a dream. But I know, and they know too. I'm not sure he was human, or if he wasn't just some regular person. Because the way he looked at us that night, that wasn't the look of a stranger. That was the look of someone who'd been waiting for you, and wanted to make sure you never made it back home. And ever since that night, I made one promise to myself. I'm never going back to that school, no matter what.